Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this meeting of the Regional Planning Panel on the 17th of December 2020. My name is Leslie Finn and I'm a solicitor and I'm the chair of today's panel meeting. With me are Mr. Chris Young, Town Planner, Mr. Ron Edgar, Heritage Consultant, and Ms. Virginia Wise, who is a representative from the community. I would now like to confirm the minutes of the meeting, of the panel meeting of the 17th of September 2020, formally. I'd like to advise you that none of the panel members on the panel today have a conflict of interest in either of the matters that are before the panel today. And also to advise you that you are being recorded, audio recorded and video recorded. The speaking time for each person is 3 minutes and any extension of time is totally at my discretion. Perhaps therefore we could move to the first matter, which is a development application for alteration and other works to 54 Alexandra Street, Hunters Hill. This matter was deferred at the meeting of the 17th of September for the applicant to address 4 issues raised by the panel. Now, there are a number of people registered to speak today in this matter. There is the applicant, Mr. Joe Grieco, and then there's a number of supporters. I'm wondering if Mr. Grieco would like to speak first.
Sure. So I myself with my my colleague Dan Eagles here, we're the applicant for the project. So we've prepared the development application, the drawings, the reports from Access Consultants, additional heritage reports. You know, we're not going to say much. We just want to wait and see what your determination is, and we're here to answer any questions you have.
Oh, so I think some members of the panel might have some questions for you. So perhaps we could start with Mr. Edgar. Can you advise of any issues that you might, or matters you wish to raise with Mr. Grieco?
I don't, my concern is that the plans that we received in return haven't changed from the previous meeting, and especially in terms of addressing the disabled access. And we're concerned that what we have now doesn't improve on the situation that we asked to be looked at and resolved at the last meeting. Could you show us what alternatives were looked at, and just sort of demonstrate how the proposed disabled access works in compliance with the standards?
Sure. So since our last meeting, we had Co-Performance, who are Access Consultants, run through the space with us and develop a series of performance measures and make a series of assessments based on both your recommendations and what we were proposing to do. During their assessment, and basically their summary was, there needs to be disabled access. There's no performance measure to not allow wheelchair access on site. So no matter what, it has to be there. It can't run through the rear of the floor. So one of the options was to run it through the rear laneway into the back of the house, into the restaurant. Their determination was that it's not a reasonable or dignified access running through that rear lane where there's rubbish bins and machinery and equipment. Also, the step down from the courtyard down to the level of the restaurant for him to get into was 350 millimeters, therefore requiring a ramp that was about 7.5, 8 meters long, which couldn't fit within the courtyard without complete demolition of the rear area. So it wasn't an acceptable solution. So their determination, which is why we haven't changed the drawings, was the access from 80 Street is the best and only way for a wheelchair to access the site. And under no circumstances can we consider no wheelchair access, which was one of the proposals, which was one of the requests from the meeting last time.
Was it considered that redesigning the courtyard so that you could you could rearrange the toilets, you could create the courtyard so that it was a presentable entrance, and that would provide manoeuvring space and
Yes.
level access through that?
Yes, all was considered. They also kindly considered the financial implications of making such significant changes. You know, basically demolishing the back half of the building to build a ramp. Was financially, other than the financial implications, I'm unsure. Maybe there was heritage impacts as well, you know, tearing the facade down of the building to make a ramp work. We were reconfiguring the toilets already to fit a disabled toilet and an ambulant toilet, to the point where it's, you know, there's a limit to how much work we can do, you know.
Did you consider reconfiguring those areas?
Yes. Yes, it required relocating.
Do you have a sketch that you could share with us on the screen at the moment that we could?
No, because it was discussed. It wasn't sketched up.
Okay, because I did actually sketch it.
The current air conditioning system for the building is also based out the back there, so it'd be reconfiguration of the plant equipment. We did have a conversation with the building owner, and they're not prepared to support us in changing all of that at their cost, because it's not part of the feasibility for the current tenants.
Mm. But do you appreciate that the footpath isn't wide enough to give manoeuvring space into the doorway, and the gradient of the
We do appreciate that.
footpath is there, that you would actually be creating a situation that's more dangerous than not having a disabled access at all?
So we were, and interestingly, the guys from Code Performance, their response was, even though it's not really your responsibility to make that footpath accessible, it's more on council than us. However, they are satisfied that there's enough room and enough safety for a wheelchair to get into that doorway from the street.
Which is detailed in the report.
Which is detailed in the report, yep.
Well, that doesn't actually detail in the report. They show a number of the standard sketches of the manoeuvrable spaces, but they don't show the specific.
Oh no, sorry, excuse me. They said that they wrote in an email, they wouldn't put it in the report because they said assessing council's footpath is not part, they can't assess the council's footpath.
They said that in words, but they haven't provided any sketches to demonstrate how that would work and whether there would be any improvement if the door were to be recessed, or if there were landings, if there were alterations on the footpath, what sort of alterations would be needed to make it compliant. The report is basically in words and photocopies out of the standards.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you've answered your question there.
Yes,
the report is what we have that we commissioned.
Yeah. No, but I'm saying it doesn't show any analysis that helps us to be able to understand how you intend it to work.
We can only provide access into the restaurant from the street. What happens on the street is out of our control. It's just that's the simplest answer for that.
Okay. Chair, I don't have any further questions.
Thank you. Chris, do you have some questions? Mr. Young?
Sorry. Mr. Edgar's covered most of the issues that I was certainly concerned about. I was certainly looking for some form of graphical analysis to show that the various options had been looked at to be able to answer the previous panel's requests. And the way I looked at the moment, I'm not convinced that we've moved forward a great deal from where the last panel was.
Virginia, do you have some questions?
No, mainly they were just observations that we were going to ask people to get out of their vehicle in a no stopping zone, which is what that whole side is, which is sort of awkward and difficult. And then we hadn't really resolved the physical access along the street and getting past things like the Maria from the driveway that you could get out safely at. You then can't proceed along the footpath because we've got a great big plant in the way. Just, I just couldn't see the logistics how you could safely get someone out at that point and back to the door. And there's been no resolution of the threshold junction. You need some sort of slight ramping, I imagine, to get from the gradiating street over the new threshold. There's no notes and there's no reference to.
It's actually on grade. So where that door opens out to the ground floor, the street and the floor level are one in the same. There may be a slight 30 mil step down, which the builder will address with a slight ramp over the threshold. Again, it didn't raise any alarms with the access consultant.
Okay, that's fine. I guess my more thing is that we're asking people to get out of the car in a no stopping zone on a corner, and the ideal is actually to come along further to where the driveway is. We'd have to get rid of the Maria and all the claptrap on the footpath to make that accessible. I don't know who owns that. Who owns that? It's not shown on the drawing.
Who owns the street? Who owns the footpath?
Sorry, I missed that.
I don't understand. Who owns, what are we talking about? The tree or the footpath or the driveway?
Well, at the moment, if you were to get out of the car as a disabled person in a wheelchair with someone helping you out and head along the footpath, you can hardly get past the Maria, which is the big tree in the corner. Whose is that?
You've identified the problem with that street in itself. It's a no stopping zone. So there's plenty of parking on the adjacent street, and there's a footpath that connects the two. So there's no expectation that people will be pulling up outside the access door. They'll be coming along the street and entering the restaurant through that because the front entry to the restaurant has a number of steps. So we're not providing a parking area or an unloading area. That's, again, outside of the property that we're considering with this. We're looking at how we provide access to the building. So how they arrive on site is a number of ways. They could actually be local residents in a wheelchair and actually wheel themselves down the street.
Yeah, no, I understand.
So the question of access can easily be accessed from the adjacent street.
Yeah, Alexandra Street.
Alexandra Street.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are a number of persons who have registered to speak in favour of the proposal. The first one is Ms. Heather Cook. Heather, did you wish to speak?
So you've got Heather, Dave and Wayne, who are the proprietors of...
Yes, there are. Who wants to speak? All of you or...
So we were just here to answer questions pretty much, but I suppose in a brief summary, we've opened the restaurant as a pop-up for the last 6 to 8 weeks. We feel like we've added to what the community wanted. It's been unbelievably successful, and the collaboration between the local businesses, whether it's across the road, other restaurants or cafes, has been certainly applauded by everyone in the area. We've employed 12 people who all live within 2 kilometres of the venue, where we are local ratepayers. We've now presented, I think, 4 or 5 reports, and we completely understand that we need to go through a planning process given the area and given the heritage nature of the building. We've had 4 or 5 consultants put different reports up, and we would love to maintain the heritage value of the building and get people in wheelchairs into the building as well. But it seems like no matter which way we turn, we're running into problems. So we love the building. That's why we want to be there. There's elderly people as well. We want to get them into the building safer. We don't think, and it's only our opinion, bringing them back through past bins and air conditioning and past the toilet is the best way to do it. We understand there's some issues with the path out the side or the sidewalk, but we'll do anything we can to fix that. It's wide enough. It's a bit bumpy at the moment, but given all of those things, I don't think it seems to be insurmountable, but we keep running into these problems. We understand all your questions, absolutely, but I don't know how many more consultants we can get to say sort of the same thing. So we appeal to your judgment to hopefully let us get on with building, adding to the community.
Does anybody else wish to say anything?
No, I'm fine.
I'd just say that I don't think the panel is against the concept of having a restaurant there. It's just trying to make it actually work, and I think it really comes down to whether or not there has been enough thought put into the disabled access, and it certainly doesn't have to run past air conditioning and garbage bins, etc., like that for those parts of it. And that's really, I think, probably the stumbling block is certainly as I'd see it.
It's really a design issue to try and get the disabled access to be effective and safe.
We've tried to put the ramp through the back courtyard, but because of the pits that are out the back, the gradient doesn't work. So there's the going past the bins and the air conditioning, which I'm sure we could spend 250,000 to relocate all the air conditioning and the motors for the fridges and put them on the roof. I assume we can do that. They would still need to go past bins because I'm not sure where else the bins can go. But physically, we've been told, Joe, Dan, that the ramp can't work through the courtyard. If it would work, let's do it. Let's get the sixth consultant to say that's how we can do it. But we've been told by 5 different consultants that it doesn't work. And if it does, let's just draw it up and let's do it.
I think, Wayne, the other thing is that the grease trap in the courtyard proves to be a problem because we need to cut through that to get a ramp in. So it's just a major infrastructure change to an existing operating restaurant that we're seeking approval to actually renovate the interior of. So I completely understand the need for disabled access as well, and we've done our due diligence with the access consultants. Perhaps they should have been on this call with us, but we didn't realise that we needed them. I think without them here, it's difficult to actually to reference what they have put in the report, because obviously we engaged them to do so. But as you can see from what we've explained with the courtyard scenario, there is a commercial reality to it. If this doesn't work, the current tenants will walk away from the property and will be sitting there vacant, which I'm pretty sure will be a bad news story for the Hillshire in terms of encouraging local business. But at the same time, we have actually made the scenario work through the side entry. And if we come back to the initial objections that were raised and the reason we're sitting at this panel, a large majority of that was due to the fact that this was a bar or a restaurant that is already approved usage. So the disabled access, we have a report that actually confirms we can deliver through that space. Like Wayne, I sort of plead that you actually use common sense in this space to actually approve it so we can get on and move forward.
Anybody else have any questions?
No.
I don't have any.
No.
Yeah.
Do any of the applicants' representatives wish to say anything further?
I think we've said what we've been currently thinking and working through over the last 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Well, the decision will be available later, and so I'd like to move on to the next item at today's meeting, and thank you very much for your attendance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, Dave.
There you go, mate. Do you like the house?
I like the house.
Yeah. Some brilliant.
Oh, they were just in the background. I see it. Wonderful.
We're supposed to leave now, so.
Yeah.
Well, I hope it went well.
Oh, it went brilliantly, mate. 100%.
Excellent. Well, they're a great council. What can I say? Hello, who are you?
Good afternoon. My name is Leslie Finn and I'm the chair of the panel this afternoon. With me are Ron Edgar, Heritage Consultant, Virginia Wise, who's a representative from the community, the second item in today's list, and it is an application for alterations and additions comprising a relocated driveway and carport, new roof, new rear external stair and rear deck, minor internal reconfiguration and new landscaping. And Mr. Mark Armstrong has registered to speak. Now, Mr. Armstrong, perhaps you'd like to either add something to what you've read. I presume you've read the report, or do you wish? Are you happy just to answer questions from the members of the panel? We can't hear you.
You're on mute.
Mute. Hello?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you wish to say anything about the report? I assume you've read it.
Oh, yes, of course. Look, I think it's fairly fair. He seems to have covered most of the grounds. There's a couple of issues there with regard to lines of sight, which we can go through later on as part of the process, I guess. And there's a couple of heritage issues where the heritage report was contradictory to the heritage report we had done and what the planner had considered to be fair. So, no, overall, we're quite content with the way it's sitting.
Thank you. Do any members of the panel have any questions of Mr. Armstrong?
No, I don't.
No, I don't. I'm quite happy with what I saw.
Virginia?
No, quite happy with what I saw. No question.
Thank you. Mr. Armstrong, you might like to stay on whilst Ms. Trudy Atkinson is a resident who wishes to speak. Ms. Atkinson?
Can you hear me? Yeah, I think I'm unmuted. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. Our concern with the development is that the construction of the roof on the subject property in the form contemplated by the development application will extend the ridgeline west towards our property. The extension of the ridgeline in that manner has the consequence of blocking our present views of the city skyline and the Parramatta River from our lower balcony, kitchen, dining area and lounge room. Views of this nature are rare and significant, so are of great importance to us. Can I just say, at no time has the neighbours approached us to discuss their development application. We don't wish to be obstructive to them because we generally support owners' right to develop their land. So we're willing to discuss a resolution to this issue for the benefit of both us and the neighbours.
Do you have any comments, Mr. Armstrong?
Yes, I've got one. Have you actually done any calculations or any drawings as to show what the loss of views would be, you know, from your balcony, etc.?
No, we haven't. I don't think that's on our. It should be on our owners to do that. We've had your consultant came over and took some photos recently of our balcony, and his comments were that yes, we were losing those views. So, I mean, from his photographs and from his comments that he made to us when he was on our balcony area, and I mean, it just goes to we don't need any drawings. It's obvious that's. You can see from where the roof line is from our property that that's going to take away our existing views.
Okay, well, thank you.
Any other members of the panel have any questions?
The only question I had is really the extent of that. Is that, would those views be lost from everywhere in the house, or is it mainly from the lower level?
It's mainly from the lower level, and it's that part that looks over their roof line.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Virginia, do you have any questions?
No questions. No.
Is there anything further you wish to say, Mr. Armstrong, in response?
Yes. We were very conscious of the roof profile when we were doing this design, and as you would have clearly seen in our drawings, we went to great extent not to raise the height of the roof at all, just to keep the ridgeline exactly where it is. Yes, the neighbour is absolutely right. We were extending it to the west by, I don't know, by the extent of the hip, so it's probably about 2.5 meters or something. But also the location of that ridge height has now moved further to the north, which would open up their view, in fact. So if you look at the photographs that the planner has put in his submission or his report, you'll actually see where the ridge line is now, and the ridge line will be moving towards the left by 500 mil, 600 mil, something like that. And the reason for that is that it then sits on the main structural walls of the house below. When the house was built, I've got no idea why it missed by that dimension, but we've been able to flatten the roof pitch off on the southern side, and it is now sitting above the wall line of the walls. Sorry, the walls below the ridge. So, in some ways, you could actually argue the ridge line is now moved further away from their main line of sight. I can't see that it's going to be an issue at all.
Well, I would argue that point because it does extend out, and it doesn't look like it's an extension of what currently is there at the moment. I mean, it's obviously on this plan here that shows the southern elevation.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely right. It does extend on out, but it is behind the line of those pencil pines that are in those two photographs.
So are the pencil pines staying, or are they going?
They're staying.
Is that all, ladies and gentlemen?
Okay.
Thank you very much. We will close this part of the meeting now for the panel to consider and deliberate on the matters. Thank you very much for your attendance.